So Manchester United drew 2-2 with Bournemouth in a game which really lit up in the second half and was, in the end, headlined by a referee decision. This one involving Ahmad, which we'll get to in a minute. But hopefully this will be a point which will be valuable in that race for top 4/top 5 and that Champions League football. But Man United, I mean, it's weird. The first half was actually better than the second half in terms of performance. We've seen a lot recently, but it's actually been the other way around, where first half they take a bit of time to sort of get into the game, but then second half they sort of find the different routes to goal, and they can get those goals or get those chances. This time around though, it was different because the first half United actually had a lot of decent chances, especially Ahmad. He had one shot early on. Yeah, had one where he didn't have a shot, I don't think, but he was in on goal, and really should have done better with that. After I think it was a Cunha pass for him. I mean that probably should have been a goal really, because if he got that touch right, that probably would have been a very good chance. Bruno had a chance as well from a cross. So really, we should have gone up at least one goal in that first half. But then the second half, we got the penalty of Cunha, clear penalty. The guy pulls his shirt, and it was easy penalty, and Bruno tucks it away. But then we had this, and I'll make it bigger now so you can see clearly. Now I can't play it obviously because copyright and that, but this is a bit of a freeze frame I chose, which I know you want to look at freeze frames, really. That's not how it's supposed to be looked at in terms of football, but just to see this player, Trafet, I think, or Trafet, however you pronounce his name, he was on Ahmad with two hands. So before this movement, he had his hand over Ahmad's chest to try and stop the run, because this is a position like where Ahmad will take a shot, through that corridor of space there, and have a curling shot and try and get it in the top corner. We've seen him do that many times, come inside and do that. So for people saying that, it's different than the one later in the game with Evan Nielsen, because he was through on goal. I understand that, but at the same time, he was about to shoot, and so was Evan Nielsen. He was going to shoot in that position. I know it's slightly different because he's lost a man more. Here, obviously, Ahmad didn't, but Trafet has his hand over Ahmad's chest first. Then he gets two hands on his arm, which that's, I think when I first saw it, I was like, it looks a bit soft, and Ahmad has shown himself to go over a few times in the past, but I think it was the two hands on him, which I felt like that did enough to push him off balance, where that is a foul. Like he's not just used his strength there. He like one hand you can understand, but two hands when you're actually forcibly holding on, and also just after putting your hand across him as well, which obviously Maguire put his hand across. I think that added together would be a foul. So that should be a penalty. The issue is, after the penalty, after this incident happened, Bournemouth went on to score, and so for the VAR, which I believe was Craig Pawson, if I'm not mistaken, he had then, for this to be given, he had to not only give the penalty but also disallow the Bournemouth goal. So it's two things. He had to go back to two different phases there in terms of the game. So it's okay overturning it just as a penalty, but to actually take away a goal, it really is. It's like a 6-pointer. We see 6-pointer games. This was like a 2-goal situation here. One of those 2-goal swings. So I think the VAR bottled it. Really, I think if Bournemouth didn't score, I could see this being given. However, at the same time, fine. If he doesn't want to give it, he doesn't want to give it. That's fair enough. But to then give the penalty for Evan Nielsen with the Maguire challenge, which again is very soft in terms of the amount of contact, but Maguire did put his body, I think his arm as well, across to block the run, then you can understand why the penalty's been given and the red card. But that amount of contact is very similar to the one we saw here. So just take it as their own thing, that they should both be penalties. And they're either both penalties or neither are penalties. I mean, that's the main issue. The main issue is there's no consistency in the game. And we don't even see it within other games, but within one game is pretty bad. Especially in a game like this where it's so tight. Like we drew 4-4 at Old Trafford. Bournemouth are like a ship which just won't drop. Like they're just always gonna grab on and try and peg you back. Like how many times have they done that now? Like in the Old Trafford game, we thought, was it Cunha got the winning goal, and then they come back and get a goal back to make it 4-4. So, Bournemouth, fair play to them. They're not easy to beat. This is a fifth draw in a row. They have a lot of draws. like they don't win loads, but they do make sure the opposition doesn't win, which they've done here as well. But I think United played well in that first half. I think Ahmad had, like I said, he had 2 good opportunities. I wouldn't say he played well because he should have done better with what he had. I mean, the first shot was fine, but that move where he had the shot eventually, well, he didn't have a shot, where he was put through on goal, he should have done a lot better with that. But, Ahmad, to be fair to him, he has shown, even with terrible passes, that he can score from that situation. It reminded me a bit of the Liverpool FA Cup game when Garnacho gave him that crap pass, but he still was able to score. As I remember that pass when that was played by Garnacho, I thought, bloody hell, what a terrible pass. He's ruined it. And then bloody Ahmad, does what we know he does, and he got the winning goal there. But this time, this was an easier thing for Ahmad. So that's what's disappointing. This was an easier opportunity. The ball was actually good for him, and it went wrong with his touch. So he got himself in good positions. Like, at least he was in the game. Like, Mbumo wasn't really there as much. So I think going forward, we've got the Leeds game. Well, was it 24 days? So we've got like near a month until the next game. But I do expect Mbumo to have a go on the bench, because you've got to think Sesko's been on the bench loads. Cunha's even been on the bench as well when Carrick first came in. And Ahmad's been on the bench too. I'd put Mbumo on the bench for the Leeds game. I'll give Ahmad a go with Sesko and Cunha, and then bring on Mbumo. But it's very difficult because Mbumo's obviously scored loads of goals, and like Cunha, they're both like players who can just do something out of nothing. More so Cunha, but I think that's why Carrick finds it's difficult playing Sesko, because that means he has to drop either Cunha and Mbumo, who we just said about, but also Ahmad, who's a player who's very, he's got the pace and he's very unpredictable when it comes to the opposition fullback. They don't know which way to go. So, who would you start? Out of those 4, who would you start against Leeds? That's a big question. Midfield, I thought Mainu had a decent game actually compared to some of his other ones. Casemiro, not so much, but I think Bournemouth, the way they play, it made our midfield too have to work a lot, and I think that's where Mainu was able to keep up to speed of the game, whereas Casemiro not so much, probably because of his age, and he can't he can't really have as much do as much running as that midfield for Bournemouth. And in terms of fullbacks, Shaw was okay, but he's always just, that's the thing with Shaw, he's always all right or below average. We hardly ever see him have a game where he's like, wow, okay, Luke Shaw has really done something here. Evra used to do that a lot at left back. Like, we used to have loads of great performances from Evra, but we have to understand Luke Shaw's past it really, but he's there as a squad player. Really, he's part of this second 11, which is why he'll stay. He'll stay because Jim Ratcliffe and all the rest of the board and that, they're not going to get rid of these players, because firstly, they won't have anyone to buy them. Secondly, they can't afford to buy a second 11. So, this second 11 is going to, it looks like Maguire's going to stay for another year, so he's part of that second 11. Delo is as well. However, I think some of the players like Ugarte, probably not. But if you can't sell him, then he's going to have to be part of that. And if you need, considering we're going to probably buy 2 midfielders, then he might have to stay. But hopefully from his side, he'll try and force a move which is worth it, so we can reinvest. Because it's been 2 years now, and I think Ugarte, like I've said in the previous video, I think if he has games, he will show his quality, but he needs game on game. Like this is a season where it's been terrible for him because there's been hardly any games. But I think if there's Europe and Cup games, he could come in and actually show himself to do something. But at the moment, he just looks so off it because he's hardly playing when he comes on, and usually we seem to play worse when he comes on in place of Casemiro. And then Xerxes, obviously, he's not even getting off the bench. And Mount, again, he's part of that second 11 probably because who's going to buy Mount? He's so injury prone. So you have those players you're sort of stuck with in a way. So he's stuck with them because of that, because no one wants them, but also the board and that, they want to have a squad, and this is the cheapest way of having a squad, is keeping those players around. So really, their aim is to boost the first 11, which is what they did in the summer with Cunha and Bumo, Lamans, and also, who else was it? Sesko, of course. Yeah, we've got a whole front line. We've got a whole front line and a goalkeeper. So the top and the bottom of the team has been sorted. Now it's the middle part. It's the midfield and defence. But Dalot, he pissed me off in this game because he kept coming into midfield, which is fine. I don't mind him doing that. But the amount of times Bournemouth, especially in that second half, were going down his side, and I was like, where is he? Where is he? Where has he gone? Like, he's supposed to be there. Like, there's a big gap over there, and he's just wandering off. Like, you got to find a balance. If he's going to come into midfield, fine. And sometimes he's, I think he overlapped once or twice, but he's got to also understand he's got to be back for that, because as many times where Bournemouth were going down that side and coming in, into the middle, just on the edge of the box, and they had a couple of very good chances. One which came off the post, was it, and hit Lamans on the back, and luckily it didn't go in. Like, there was that position there, just around the area, which you could also blame the midfielder, like Casemiro, whoever was on at that time. But I think Dalot is also an issue because he moves players. Players have to move over there or be aware of that situation. And so they can't attack that space. So I think he was also quite poor. I thought Yoro was all right. I don't think Maguire was a bit fortunate in the first half with another penalty shout, but I don't think that was a penalty, but, another ref, you never know. But also, I was thinking about Maguire before this game, is about Maguire. He, the English press love him because of what he's done for England in terms of goals, with his big head. And I'm always, of course, very appreciative of the last minute goals he's got for us and all that sort of stuff. But and also being available during this time, especially now with De Ligt having this long injury. However, we haven't really played many teams who have been like Bournemouth, actually, like have really attacked those centre backs. Having that striker Evan Nielsen, and I feel like we haven't have had as many issues with Maguire recently because we're also not playing as many games and not as many games in Europe, where sometimes I feel like he has shown to he's shown that he isn't up to speed with the game and he gets caught out sometimes. Again, as that second 11 player, we'll keep him for another year, I guess, but he's not the future for our centre back position. I think everyone knows that, of course, but it means we've got to get 2 midfielders, probably a centre back at least. Full backs need sorting out. So we're going to need at least really 5 signings would be great. Maybe 6, 7. I mean 6, 5. I'd say 4 as like core signings like we did last year. Like 2 midfielders, a full back and a centre back. That'd probably be my 4 core signings. But then if we sell like Xerxes or Ugarte, get someone else in, maybe make a 5 and 6. And then hopefully we've got the manager sorted out as well, whoever that's going to be, and let's go for it next year. That's the plan. Bruno, gets a goal. I don't think does he get an assist for that? I don't think he got an assist for the own goal, does he? I think he does. He does in the FPL though. So if you got him in your fantasy Premier League, which I do actually as a captain, booyah, then you got a lot of points. But yeah, I was very angered with this referee and VAR, and yeah, I think it's one of those games which hopefully won't bite us in the arse when it comes to the end of the season, because we could have easily won this game at the end of the day. So that's end of my waffle. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you very much for watching.